Finally, my first break in 2 months. I sure hope nothing big has happened in that time. I really fancy sitting down and... Wait, I just looked at the time. It's Marvel, baby! But it isn't Capcom, it's Arc System Works. After 3/4 of a decade, Marvel has made its glorious, glamorous return to the tag team fighting game genre, with a twist. While Capcom were distracted, Sony snuck into the Avengers Tower, bringing along representatives from Arc System Works. And together, they formed the new Avengers fighting game development team. I'm not a massive Marvel fan. I watched the Marvel Cinematic Universe films up until halfway through Phase 4, but I've never read the comics, nor have I played the hot new video game Marvel Rivals. Instead, I have played the Marvel vs. Capcom games, and these are some of the most pure fun fighting games ever made. They're crazy fast-paced and nail the dynamic of letting casuals feel good mashing buttons, while offering experienced players limitless depth and some of the highest actions per minute requirements in the genre. Beyond that, I am a massive fan of Arc System Works' original fighting games Guilty Gear and BlazBlue. The gameplay here is more balanced, and they have a higher skill floor, but they still have a unique sense of craziness and are excessively cool. Seeing these two similar yet different things I love be fused together is, to say the least, surreal. I have needed to discuss Marvel TalkOn ever since its reveal in early June. Obviously, my first break in 2 months was a joke. I had alternate plans for discussing this, but by now I think those plans have fallen through. Marvel vs. Capcom has cemented itself as one of the most legendary fighting game series. But this game isn't Marvel vs. Capcom. It's Marvel by Arc, with backing from Sony. This sudden divorce and remarriage has left Capcom as an elephant in the room. Only last year they acquired the licenses for a collection of their old Marvel games, which even I hoped was a sign that these two parties were in negotiations for a new game. Instead, Marvel were engaged with Sony and Arc all along, and none of the PR for TalkOn has mentioned Capcom, which I believe is a deliberate attempt to minimize trouble with fans eager for answers. The behind-the-scenes video from Japan to the world makes it clear that the initial idea for Marvel TalkOn came from Sony. Judging by the release window of 2026, I assume this idea started in 2021, years after the failure of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and the year that Arc released Guilty Gear Strive to a smashing success. This was also when Arc began to wind down support for Dragon Ball FighterZ, their own tag team fighting game, whose high quality won over the players disappointed in Infinite. Sony must have witnessed this battle, noticed the resulting gap in the Marvel fighting game market, and taken the ironic path of contracting the FighterZ studio to develop a Marvel game. Later, I assume Marvel went back to Capcom and got the collection out as a consolation prize. If you ask me what Marvel TalkOn means for the future of Marvel vs. Capcom, I doubt we're getting another game for the rest of this decade. Ideally, I would have preferred a new Marvel vs. Capcom in addition to an Arc game based on a different franchise that hasn't had a good fighting game already. But who's to say that would happen? For all I know, Capcom might have all hands on deck developing their own games like Street Fighter 6. Even if TalkOn never existed, Capcom might be physically unable to develop a second fighting game at a time. In that sense, Sony and Arc swooping in is an act of mercy. Beggars can't be choosers. Marvel TalkOn still looks awesome. In order to fully appreciate it, we'll have to inherit the same philosophy as its developers and wipe the slate clean. Forget about Marvel vs. Capcom and treat this as something new. Currently, there isn't much discernible information on how the individual characters control. We can see many performing a continuous run forward, a quick dash backward, and a horizontal air dash, just like Guilty Gear and Dragon Ball FighterZ. We could also see characters being splattered onto a cracked wall or knocked into other areas of the stage, which is a divisive feature from Guilty Gear Strive. Effectively, it's a comeback mechanic that reduces the advantage of cornering the opponent by resetting everyone to neutral after a while. Gameplay ramifications aside, a classic trope of superhero fights is characters being knocked across cities causing massive collateral damage, so it's appropriate for a game all about superhero fights. According to the PlayStation blog post on the game's announcement, each character features a bespoke set of normal, special, and unique attacks, and these names intrigue me. Some tag fighters use the term special attack to refer to attacks that launch opponents, which this game has plenty of. If that's the case here, then unique attack probably refers to what we traditionally call special moves. Moves that usually require a motion input to perform, but which this very blog post clarifies can also be performed with optional simple inputs. Alternatively, those launches could be classified as normal attacks, and special attack has the more literal definition of special moves. In that case, the definition of unique attack is up in the air, although they sound a lot to me like drive attacks from BlazBlue. In that series, every character has a unique gimmick controlled through a dedicated button. Ragnar's drive lets him steal health, Jin's drive lets him freeze opponents, Hazuma can throw out a chain, Carl and Relius can command puppets. With regards to Marvel, I feel some characters with pre-existing signature abilities would suit this idea better than others. Spider-Man can shoot webs, Captain America can throw his shield, Miss Marvel can enlarge her limbs, whereas I struggle to imagine what exactly Iron Man or Doctor Doom would have. Which one of these hypotheses is on point? I have no idea. I'm making this video within 2 weeks before EVO Las Vegas, during which Sony will host a panel that will likely prove all of my speculation wrong. The real appeal of the game comes from its tag team mechanics, now with 4 characters per team. Compared to 3 characters, I'm unsure if 4 will feel like a meaningful evolution, or if it'll just prolong games and demand even more matchup knowledge. Each character is up to 3 distinct assists, with some having aerial variants, a feature unique to this game. Characters on a team appear to be chosen in the order of leader, shooter, vertical, then assault, which I theorize correspond to the 3 types of assist. Each character has one of each type, and which one they can use is chosen at the start of the game based on their placement order. Under this system, I could see all 3 assists being folded onto one button, with the direction held when pressing the button deciding which assist comes out, which would help to keep the number of buttons required to play the game within reasonable limits. Both the documentary and blog post mention a system that makes it so you only need to master one character in order to play the game. I assume this system is that all 4 characters on a team share one health bar, but each one has a different defense modifier. In most other tag fighters, each character has an individual health bar, and once one gets depleted, the next character forcibly swaps in. If my guess is true, then the player would never be forced to tag, and they're free to ignore the manual tag feature if they want. Enough of these minutiae, what can you do with these assists? More than any other fighting game. You can call multiple assists at once and freely swap control to any active assist, which I assume is done by inputting the assist a second time. You can swap characters during aerial combos and call assists as guard counters, then convert them into full combos. The ways in which you can utilize assists look incredibly freeform, which is refreshing to see after Guilty Gear Strive was criticized for cutting down on player freedom. How satisfying any of these mechanics feel hinges on how the playable characters feel. Everyone's movesets have been crafted from scratch, since obviously Arc can't reuse Capcom's old movesets without Capcom's involvement. This does provide the opportunity to make these new movesets truer to the characters and their abilities. Captain America seems to be the basic all-rounder of the game, with lots of punches and kicks and a shield charge. He could also throw his shield and it'll return to him afterwards in what looks like a mere cosmetic touch. I don't think his moveset changes when he doesn't have it on hand, nor do I think the shield has a hitbox when it returns to him. He does have this interesting assist in which he guards before throwing the shield, which can probably absorb hits for the point character. I like utility assists in tag fighters. Iron Man has a larger emphasis on zoning with his full-screen beams and delayed drones. He looks like another basic character with some unique melee attacks, including a dive kick and a familiar move. Spider-Man is a nimble, close-range brawler with the ability to shoot webs. He can shoot a series of projectiles or a long web that reaches the edge of the screen and he pulls himself along. He also has a parry utilising his Spidey sense. For the most part, I like the character's visual redesigns in this game. Bomber Jacket Captain America and Gundam Iron Man are inspired choices, except the white elements around Spider-Man's body are an eyesore. Miss Marvel can enlarge her limbs for long-ranged attacks, as well as a similar screen grab to Spider-Man. However, she appears to be decent up close, with an absurdly fast walk, a slide that can phase past opponents and their attacks, and command throws for both the special and super variety. Instead, this game's more traditional long normal Zoner appears to be Ghost Rider with his chain and possibly the ability to place pits of fire on the ground. Keeping with the anime influence on the character designs, Star-Lord fulfills the trope of the red coat gunslinger, hence his similar super to Dante in Marvel vs. Capcom. His gun can shoot small energy blasts, full-screen beams, fireballs with long startup, and ice blasts that freeze and restand opponents. I'm pretty sure this leap is a special move, judging by the purple fumes from his boots, which don't appear in his regular jumps. Doctor Doom is one of the more unique characters so far, and one of the most different from his Marvel vs. Capcom appearance. His dashes are replaced with slower teleports, and he presumably has this rushing hit grab as a substitute. He has a clear long-range focus, with beams aimed horizontally and diagonally up, a delayed homing airstrike, and a barrier that can absorb projectiles. Storm has an ice projectile and a spin resembling a tornado. I'm especially intrigued by this downwards version of the spin, featuring a graphic of the wind blowing down. Fans have noticed that this resembles Rachel's drive from BlazBlue, which lets her freely blow the wind in 8 directions, propelling herself and her projectiles. That is one of my favourite drives in BlazBlue, so if Storm here has the same ability, I will be pleased. So far, those are the 8 characters we know are playable in this game. We don't yet have an exact number for the final base roster, but if Dragon Ball FighterZ launched with 24 playable characters, that's a safe minimum guess for this game. As for who those fighters are, again, I'm not a massive Marvel fan. There's nobody I particularly want, I'll take whoever we get. I guess Gambit might look cool in art style, and obviously Hulk and Wolverine are far too iconic not to include. Overall, Marvel talk on Fighting Souls feels like the work of a genie making my dreams come true. Except I failed to give the genie enough information, so they slightly misinterpreted my wish. If not for the PC release, I'd be tempted to buy a PlayStation 5 solely for this game. Thankfully though, I can save all that money and buy it on my PC. 1 or 2 years down the line once it's been repackaged with the first batch of DLC. Sorry, as much as I love Guilty Gear Strive, I think spending over £100 on that one game and still being asked to spend more has soured me on buying fighting games at launch.